We're joined by former Michigan Congressman Pete Hoekstra. He was the top Republican on the Intelligence Committee before he left the House to run for governor. Welcome back to Newsmax, sir.
It's always great to be here. Thank you.
Good to have you here. All right, we're seeing some pretty scary stuff around the world. In Egypt, for example, the military has released the assassins of Anwar Sadat, and 3,000 Muslim Brotherhood members have been invited back to Egypt. Now, are you concerned that the radical Muslim Brotherhood might be getting a foothold there?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, they've had a foothold in Egypt for years. Mubarak, successfully tapped them down, restricted them, so that publicly they were saying, we're now a social organization. We're not about governing and radical Islam anymore. I don't believe it for a minute. I think they're a potential threat. I think they're a potential part of the new government. That makes U.S. policy in the Middle East very, very difficult.
Is there anything the U.S. can do to stop the rise of fundamentalism there, Islamic fundamentalism?
Well, I think this is an area that, with what's going on in Iraq, Afghanistan, Yemen, Algeria, Libya, Egypt, I think it's really time for the U.S. to step back and reboot. There is so much going on in the Islamic world that we have misjudged and misunderstood for the last 20 to 30 years. I think now is a great time for the president to lead, step back and say, hey, let's really figure out what U.S. policy needs to be.
You mentioned Libya. What's at stake for the U.S. and why should we be involved there, considering our troops are fighting 2 other wars?
Well, I'd argue that they might be 3 other wars, including Yemen. I mean, we've been active in Yemen there, and now we're in Libya. The problem, I think, with Libya right now is we're not in and we're not out. Okay, we're participating in a no-fly zone. We've got an obscure objective saying we're in there for humanitarian reasons, but ultimately we want Gaddafi to be gone. It's kind of like either we're going to go in, carry out a mission, and have Gaddafi gone, or don't go in it at all. I mean, this half measure is very awkward, and I think that it's very problematic. Remember, up until a few years ago, or maybe a few months ago, Gaddafi was our ally. Whether you like it or not, the Bush administration and the Obama administration embraced Gaddafi. He gave us his nuclear weapons program. He helped us fight al-Qaeda. He stopped illegal immigration from Libya and Northern Africa going into Europe. We thought that that was in our national interest.
House Speaker John Boehner says Obama has not clearly defined the mission and what we're doing in Libya. Do you agree with him?
Oh, I think that's absolutely accurate. He's saying we're in there for humanitarian reasons, but then he says Gaddafi needs to go. He says we're going to participate in the no-fly zone, no boots on the ground. Then we read, according to press reports, that we've got CIA on the ground, which means we've got shoes on the ground, but not boots on the ground. So not only hasn't he laid out a clear mission, he also hasn't, I think, been totally forthright with the American people about what's going on in Libya. There's reports out there that there's a presidential finding that allows certain activities to take place. He should really lay that out for the American people. What is our commitment? What are we doing on the ground?
Attorney General Eric Holder had said he wanted accused terrorists tried in civilian courts. Now he's done an about-face and he says he will try Khalid Sheikh Mohammed, the confessed 9/11 mastermind, and his 4 cohorts before a military tribunal at Guantanamo Bay. Your thoughts?
We ought to say thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Attorney General. After 27 months of delay, going down the wrong track, and all of these types of things, you finally come to the right conclusion. You recognize that the statements that you made coming into office, we're going to close Gitmo, we're going to put these people in civilian trials, that was a bad strategy. You got the information. You now understand the issues. You understand the problems with civilian trials. They're now doing the right thing. It took them a long time to get there, but they got there.
But yet Holder is blaming Congress for his about-face.
Well, clearly Congress recognized that this was a bad strategy before the Obama administration did. And so we put restrictions in on their ability to close Gitmo, to have these trials in the U.S. The bottom line is if there are 2 people left in America who think that this is a good strategy, but they can't do it, it's the president and Eric Holder. Everybody else at the local level, at the state level, Republicans and Democrats have said this is a really bad idea.
Let's switch issues here. Turning to your state's economy, heavily dependent on the automobile industry. Now, gasoline prices are through the roof, over $4 in many areas. Obama says there's little he can do to do anything about the gas prices right now, and he says that if somebody's getting poor gas mileage, just trade your car in for something else. Now, is there something more he should be doing? What do you say to his remarks?
Well, it's pretty arrogant. Telling the people, the 10.4% of the American people, or the 10.4% of the people in Michigan who are unemployed, telling them to go out and buy a new car. I'm sorry, that's not realistic. With what's going on in the Middle East and the resources that are potentially available to the U.S., this is about America becoming energy independent. This $4 a gallon gasoline is going to definitively and definitely impact the economy of Michigan and our country. And this president has slowed the exploration of more fossil fuels and shut that stuff down, open it up, and in 10 to 20 years we can become much more energy dependent. It's not going to happen overnight, but someone's got to take the first step to lead.
What about drilling in the Gulf, ANWR, the Outer Continental Shelf? Why won't he consider that?
I mean, it's the environmentalist. And we are paying for this with a huge transfer of wealth. Just think, every time we buy a barrel of oil, we're sending $109 somewhere else, rather than investing in American workers, American engineering and development, and having that dollar recycle 5 or 6 times through our economy. We're shipping it overseas. It makes absolutely no sense. It is a drain of America's dollars and resources by not drilling and producing energy here.
Another energy matter. Group of Senate Republicans led by Oklahoma's Jim Inhofe is trying to stop the Environmental Protection Agency from imposing greenhouse gas emission caps. They say what the EPA is doing is a backdoor way to get cap and trade or cap and tax through. Now, what would cap and trade mean to your state and others in the Midwest?
Oh, it would absolutely kill it. I mean, the EPA has been doing damage to the Midwest for years with some of the stuff that Congress has passed, but more significantly through the regulations that it has imposed that I think go well beyond the congressional mandate. If this president and administration and EPA want cap and trade, then go to Congress and ask for it and get the legislative authority, the legal authority to do it. Don't do it backdoor through an expansive interpretation of the law.
Okay, political matters. Wilson Research Strategies, founded by Republican pollster Chris Wilson, calls incumbent Democrat Senator Debbie Stabenow vulnerable. Now, she's below 50% in a possible U.S. Senate run against you or another Republican. Are you planning to run?
We're working through that process right now. I mean, we're really torn between 2 issues. One is the personal side. Is this something that my wife and I really want to get back into? We just got off of a statewide campaign. It's hard work. At the same time, Debbie Stabenow has been promoting policies that have been detrimental to the state of Michigan. We need a new direction if we're going to get our state turned around.
Does that mean that you're considering running, or have you decided to?
No, we've not decided yes or no. We're seriously considering it. I expect that very soon we'll make a decision. She is beatable, and we can beat her with a conservative Republican.
What would it take for a Republican to win that U.S. Senate seat, considering Michigan hasn't gone for a Republican presidential candidate in many election cycles?
We need to, number one, come forward with a positive message as to what a conservative Republican would mean for the state of Michigan and the kind of policies that they would advocate. We need to highlight the record of what Debbie Stabenow's votes have meant to a state like Michigan. Come up with a clear contrast, and we will win that seat.
Former Michigan U.S. Representative Pete Huckstra, thanks so much. Great to see you.
Hey, great. Good being here. Thank you.
And thank you for watching Newsmax TV.